Well, it's a pleasure to meet you all. My name again is Christina Reiki from Miami Herbert, and I'd be remiss not to do our amazing you. So I kind of feel that this is not only pivot to pandemic, but pivot to that next Zoom call that you have. I am sure all of you feel that we're Zooming and marathoning and sprinting throughout the day. But this is a great pause and a great way to just connect with colleagues. But I'm going to be talking a little bit about what you probably all went through, just the uncertainty that we had in with COVID. So what I wanted to do was like this memory refresh. I remember being in the office on, it was a Friday, well, March 16th was a Monday, but Friday, they said, let's test and see if we can all work from home. Not sure we can do this, but let's just test. And by Tuesday, March 16th or Monday, it was, this is your last day in the office, gather everything and go. It almost felt like when we prepped for hurricanes. And the next thing I know, I'm in emergency budget meetings, which will last about a month. And then they say, predict the enrollment. And marketing's not gonna work the way that it's been working. So we had to predict enrollment. It was just this funny thing where I said, how do we know if we're doing this correctly? I feel like I'm putting a rabbit out of a hat. And again, that's someone not famous said that, that was me. So I took a moment to breathe and laugh at myself. And then I actually went into Canva and I created this little guy because they kept asking me for what the enrollment number would be. And I was like, I have no idea. So my budget colleague and I literally spent a month trying to figure out all the scenarios that the university was giving us, all of the scenarios that we were taking into account that the university didn't know about our particular situations in the school. So I manage not only the marketing, and that's what we're going to get into, but I also manage enrollment. So I don't know how many of you feel that you are performing magic. So I believe, Rachel, you're going to do a poll question. Yeah, no.
Who are those unicorns?
Yeah, I want to meet you. So, do I end the polling, Rachel?
No, I take it.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, 7 is my lucky number. So there are 7 unicorns out there. I really thought that we were performing magic. And really, when I look back and I start telling, I look back, I say, what did we, wait, let's see if this works. There. What did we do? And we had to do it fast. I look back and I say, we really built smaller, smarter teams. So these are words like from a restaurant, but the front of the house started working with the back of the house. The front of the house are your waiters, they're everyone's that's on the front line, talking to your people, understanding the customers, and then the back of the house is all your ops team. And a lot of times you don't have a lot of conversations with them. So we really built these more smarter teams, and we just said, we need to speak with each other because capacity is going to be one of our greatest issues. Are we even opening? And what can we promise? What messages can we put? What type of promises could we put in our messaging? It was such a scary time. Like, will we open? Will we not? Are we really good at being online? And what is really online? So really working together as a team to figure out what that was. And tandem to that, they built together a back to campus task force, and they included marketing and recruitment. We were there with them every step of the way to understand what we could promise in our messaging and what we could say. And then when we took all of that internal information, we took it to the bottom of the funnel. And I put the pizza there because really the first bite was the most important part. That bottom part of the funnel, that part, that first bite that you take of the pizza that you absolutely love, that's what we started focusing on. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. So what did we do? We had a storming meeting. We started trying to figure out what it is that we could do. We had a huge meeting, and I'm sure Vanessa, who is my account executive or VP, whatever you want to call her, savior for me at OHO. We had a huge meeting with all of our leadership, and we included students. And we said, no idea is a bad idea. Everybody threw out everything on the table. We decided that it was the next 75 days or nothing at all. We didn't have more money. So it wasn't about finding more money. It was about spending it a lot smarter. And we realized that we had to double down on the battle to win the war. So we needed to start thinking about where were we good and how could we act fast and very fast. Next, it was about that strategic relationship that I said. You know, we had this back to campus committee, and typically those are usually made of facilities or administrators that were worried about, you know, the health of the students or the facilities or how we were going to equip the classrooms with video capabilities. But they brought us in immediately. They knew that we had each information that we had to impart to each other. We need to start telling them what we thought our projections would be, how many students we thought would be online. And that was a critical conversation, because capacity then started letting us know how far we could drive enrollment or what were our limitations. Or if we couldn't put a cap on a class because we needed the revenue, how are we going to handle it with social distancing issues? We also had weekly calibrations with the budget team. At the budget, the budget colleague and I literally became joined at the hip through Zoom, through Wine, virtually. And we really just started also telling the students everything. We started being very transparent, weekly, daily as needed, and we just realized that they needed to know what we knew. This was the most, you know, all of those relationships and what we were doing internally really culminated in this. We needed to focus on the bottom of the funnel. And for a marketer, it's a little bit scary, because my first thought is, if I take away the top of the funnel, what am I doing to my future classes? What am I doing to the future cohorts that I need to start cultivating now? But what we decided to do, and OHO was an integral part to this, was we realized that our brand is the strongest where we are. So Florida, Florida, Florida. We started diverting all of our initiatives to Florida. And then obviously then it was Miami, 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 because that's where we're best, you know, known even in Florida. And there was a real effort to focus on undergraduate seniors, especially our own Canes. And this is where partnership really came into play, because I don't know how other universities work, but undergraduate students are like untouched. We can't really contact them a lot. We can't email them too much. Parent lists are not available as we would want them to be. But COVID really gave us the platform to open up this conversation with the individuals that held this information, the emails, et cetera. They realized that this was one of our most important constituents in being able to bring us revenue and enrollment. So we worked with the undergraduate team, and we not only use this message for our undergraduate Canes, but also other undergraduates that were coming back home. These students are coming back home. Their parents want them home back from FSU, from Gainesville. We also picked another selected, 40 universities throughout the US that have been typical feeders to us, and that we were targeting them here in Miami. And really it was, a job isn't your only option. We started, pulling on the heartstrings of what their fears were and how we could help them. They're not getting a job, or jobs were being rescinded. They wanted to know about their future fast. So we said 14 days decision response. And for some academic directors, that's easy. For some, it's not. So we had to really collaborate with faculty. Application fee waivers was a given. Not that that's incredibly important, but it really did move individuals that perhaps weren't thinking about it. And really important is that we started speaking to parents. Our messaging spoke to parents, because a job is not the only option, is for both the student and the parent. They don't want their son or daughter to be not doing something after graduation. we had other tongue-in-cheek ones that were kind of fun, like you don't want to live in your parents' basement forever. But we didn't always go to market with those. But another big thing that we did was we started pivoting from cultivating old leads to focusing on leads that came in during COVID. If you became a lead that came in during COVID, we really focused on you because you were really interested in us at a time where we thought perhaps, you know, there either wouldn't be that interest or those that were interested before might not be now. So what were our guiding principles? So awareness, like I said, it was kind of scary to not focus on that because you're thinking about your future funnel, but you have to make sure that the roof isn't going to cave in today. So we kept on only what was necessary for the future funnel. Very, very basic. We moved and we kind of bypassed interest campaigns as well as we drove straight into decision. So we moved all of our funds into decision. We made it a very clear and easy path for recruiters to speed up the decision-making process. And we really started actively marketing to our applicant segment. We started, doing custom lists in social for our admitted students, telling them what the next step was. The ones that didn't complete their application, telling them to complete their application. Usually our paid strategies go to individuals that are higher in the funnel. And here we were like, no, let's get them at the point of wherever they are in their decision and move them along. And really just move the hottest leads to take action, focused in on the right now. And when I talk to my recruiters, they say they endearingly call it the 75-day push, almost like, a tremendous long labor. But, they really say, wow, that really worked. That we saw the leads coming in or the leads that we already had taking action. So next poll question, how many of you shifted strategies quickly? Okay, so I'm speaking to the choir here.
Again, we have 7 unicorns.
Yes, yes. It would be interesting to see if they're the same unicorns.
Right.
Awesome. Awesome. So when I take a look back and I think, what's this moment of reflection, right? One of the things that I did to myself is I really beat myself up. I mean, silly. I felt like the enrollment was completely on my shoulders. I felt like, layoffs were predicated by our team's performance. But quickly, I realized that with the team that we had in place, I know it's a cliche, but teamwork makes the dream work. And we were just all pulling each other up. And it wasn't about, we always say work smarter, not harder, but it was also with our money. It's not that we pumped in any additional money. I was actually told that I would probably have less money in the future because we'll have budget cuts, both, in operations. So I think something, that we did also was we went back to the basics. We just kind of just sat around the Zoom table and really thought about, okay, we shouldn't make it more difficult than it is. Let's just figure it out. So we put ourselves in the shoes of the customer and we figured out what they wanted to hear and take calculated risks. And there's one that we didn't do. There was an idea that said, all of these universities weren't opening. A lot of them went online, are still online. The ones that opened, some closed. So it was a really big thing for us to open, considering who our president is and his background in public health, and that we have a large medical school. But we had thought of doing a campaign called We're Open for Business. And we decided not to take this risk, because what if we closed 2 weeks or 3 weeks later? So take calculated risks and we really thought about what we were going to do. So now what's next? what's interesting is that, as we were all treading above water and, we were figuring out what to do and a lot worked, we're asked now to be even more creative, to push the envelope, where we're using a lot of new messaging paired with old drivers, those drivers of, your job is not a only option, decision in 14 days, but we're coming up with some really creative new messaging that I'm very excited about. I'm finding ways to help the recruitment team. We have much less staff. Our team alone has lost 7 individuals since June. So I'm trying to figure out, if I can't help them with staff, how can I give them different resources? So we're being creative on that end. And last but not least, I don't know what that mocktail menu includes, but there is a Oho cocktail, and I drink it because amazing partners like Oho, I work with the Oho team, and it's really about helping me. It's really about helping me, helping Miami Herbert, and it's been really amazing. I've worked with a lot of firms, but I really thank you for even giving me this opportunity. And before we go into questions, these simple changes can make an impact. This is a video that we had. If you look at the video, it's evergreen. So what we did is we just updated a little bit, but I wanted to let you all know why tomorrow continues to live at Miami Herbert. Tomorrow lives here.
Unfortunately, we don't have sound. I don't think, yeah. I think there's a box to check when you share the screen. So I don't know if that's super critical to this. You could stop sharing and then reshare. And when you reshare, there's a box that says share my sound.
Okay. The sound was definitely in my ears, so I'm sorry about that, but I can share it with everybody. But thank you. And I guess I'm open for questions. Rachel?
Okay, great. All right, let's just switch screens here. All right, we're going to open this up for any questions for Christina. If you have a question, just if you can post it in the chat. And just so you all know, we do share our speaker slides, and we'll be sure to also have a separate link to that video so you can see that as well. But does anybody have any questions right now for Christina? Just scanning through.
What moved people to decisions during this time?
Yep. Jeff from Gonzaga is wondering, what moved people to decisions during this time?
It was the sense of urgency, the sense of, I think somebody in our team puts it best. We're soldiers and we soldier on. It was really amazing how we coalesced as a team, and we just felt that we could do this, that we've been through so much, and we're an old business school over 71 years. So it was really that we could do this. It was more the fact that we felt that we could shoulder this and that we could do this. Not to the level to pre-COVID, because what I didn't explain is that the number on the hat, and I think, did your school increase or decrease in spring and summer? So I'm gonna kind of move into that at the same time. Is what was crazy about the little number that ended up on the hat is that there was 3 numbers, and to answer your question directly is we held steady. We came in exactly where we predicted, just a little bit better. And there was 3 models that we came up with. We came up with the best case, which was not the original enrollment goal, but the best case, considering that our students from China would not come, the most likely, and then what we endearingly called the nuclear. And that was definitely not something that we could even get close to. So we were between most likely and best case. So that was really good. And it was amazing how spot on we were with our projections. So we have to now, the students that didn't show up for China, we opened up, and wow, I forgot to put that on the slides. We decided to have 5 of our programs start in spring that we normally don't have start in spring. so that we can recoup enrollment loss from fall. And we're really focusing on domestic enrollment again. We know that, there's a lot of ifs regarding immigration and whether or not students will be able to come to the US.
Yeah. Okay, our next question is from Joe from Cambridge College. Did interest in your school increase or decrease in the spring and summer?
Well, I wouldn't say spring because we weren't really actively recruiting for spring, but summer and fall, I think it increased. And so obviously the lack of test scores, and we were able to do that as well as many schools did. They waived the test scores. That increased a lot of interest in our school. But I also think that we just, we had a lot of interest in our school because of what we were doing with COVID and how the medical school was handling it, how our medical school has contact tracing. So we were in the news a lot in terms of what we were doing with COVID. And I think that had a very good bearing on individuals in trusting to come to us and to believe that we were taking this extremely seriously. And our president did a phenomenal job of empowering our students and making them believe that they can do this. And that's why we're opening.
That's great. Okay, Dave is asking, how do you manage communications between your various stakeholders, such as current students, prospective students, parents of current students, parents of prospectives, etc.? Are different offices responsible for connecting with these groups, or is it centralized at University of Miami?
So typically it's undergrad, grad, alumni, but this back to campus task force is what I was kind of describing. We all came together to make sure that we were giving the same messages to whatever constituent or stakeholder we were personally responsible for. So like current students, prospective students, well, my team was more responsible for leads and applicants and those that were about to become current students. Programs was in charge of enrolled students, but we were all coalescing to make sure that the information was exactly the same. Not only that, this back to campus task force was also in charge of making sure that employees were getting the right information, faculty was getting the right information about teaching. So there was a lot of collaboration in making sure that everybody was getting the information, because information to faculty was just as important to recruiting as it was to them in terms of teaching, because then I'm able to speak intelligently about what the student can expect in the classroom. Yeah. So we really all work together.
Great. Okay. Robert's asking, you said recruitment didn't have access to student contact info initially, but were you in charge of student retention as well as new students? If so, how did they expect you to keep students enrolled?
Let me see, you said?
That's from Robert.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I remember saying something like that. Student contact.
Were you involved? Is your team, are you guys involved in the student retention side of things, or just bringing in new students?
My team is responsible for bringing in new students. So the programs team has, they were communicating with current students, if that was the question.
Okay. Kin from RIT is asking, how did your business school efforts and outcomes stack up and align with what the university was doing and the results they saw as a whole?
I think they stacked up very well. I think what happened is that, typical to a business school, everybody says, like, oh, business always thinks that they're the best. We started figuring out solutions way ahead of time, and we figured out some solutions, and we went out there and we took calculated risks in thinking that we could actually invite students to start in term 2, because we have 2 terms. So we built this whole, and we got approval for it, and it didn't end up working out, which actually ended up working out in our favor, because by only having the August entrance, instead of pushing students to start into this October start that we thought we would have, it actually helped us realize revenues faster. So all of term 1, we didn't have any loss in term one based on those that would have come in October. I guess you could see it conversely that we maybe could have gotten more in October, but budget wise, it really, really helped us out. That's the other thing. I mean, the university had everybody at the table. So there were stakeholders from each unit talking to the provost about what we were going to do. And it was trickling down all the way to enrollment, marketing. But we fared very well. I mean, again, it wasn't non-COVID numbers, but we were very happy.
Great. Jameson is saying, looking forward, how do you anticipate your enrollment strategies will change to address a population which has been and will likely continue to be impacted by the pandemic? Any summertime strategies that you think will be the new norm?
I think what we're seeing is that, and this is probably for all of us, is this is making us rethink how we can deliver our products. So I'm thinking of it more, not so much strategies from the marketing end in terms of this question. And if you want me to talk about that marketing, which is kind of what we're supposed to be talking about, but really I think it's about the expectation of the consumer and the prospective student wanting to feel safe. All of us will have to be able to deliver that sense of safety. So I think that's one area where we all went so fast that now we have to just sit back and say, can we do this? I think forever from now on, we'll have those students that will either feel that they're need concessions to being in the classroom, or, you know, and I hope this is not the new norm in terms of, I hope this is not something that happens often and that we become numb to. But I really think our method of delivery was really one of the things that was truly shaken, because that was the harder thing to change. It's easier to sit around a table or the Zoom table with OHO and other stakeholders and try to be creative and try to outfit all those classes and get all those cameras up and make sure that it sounds right. Make sure it's like a wedding, right? You can invite so many people and there will be people that will not like that wedding. So it's, I think that's where we were really shaken to the core in our delivery, just in general.
That makes sense. We had a couple questions actually get messaged directly to our team members, so I'm going to share those. What was the moment when you were able to predict what your team, I'm sorry, let me say that again. What was the moment when you were able to predict that your plans would come together? Was there a critical criteria or some criteria or indicator?
You know, it's funny. I'd have to say that it was one recruiter in particular that, you know, how they say there's bright spots in certain teams or departments, or she was just a bright spot. She probably outdid herself from the perspective of, you know, being able to sustain that type of momentum, but the amount of work and passion she put into it, and she exceeded her numbers on all of her programs, and it was just incredible. So sometimes, you know, one bright spot can change everything, and she just really pivoted literally from what could have been not so great to, yes, we can breathe, let's move forward, and she was definitely recognized for it.
Do you happen to know any of the strategies or tactics she employed that helped her to bring in those impressive numbers?
My favorite word is authentic. And I think authenticity is what she exudes. And she's just one of those that will not be, she's like one of those that if she thinks you're great for the program, I just don't know. She's just a really great, authentic person that moves you when you need to be moved. And if you're not right for the program, you know, she'll find something else that's potentially right for you, even if it's not with us. But she's just somebody that people have confidence in, and she's just fantastic in that way.
Okay. Did you achieve the desired results with new focus and messaging? How well did it work?
It worked extremely well. I mean, so one of the things that we do with OHO Weekly, even aside from the pandemic, is that I have my recruiters on the call so that we can calibrate leads. A great example of this was even during COVID, is our real estate MBA program. And when we started our targeting, you know, and that's when I decided to bring in the recruiters into the call. So this particular recruiter could say, tell OHO what's off with the leads, why aren't they converting? And little by little, it was like we were calibrating them. It's like, you know, like the mechanic, right? And finally we optimized them, and she's like, oh my God, it's happening. It was like we opened the spigot. And that's how we get better, meaning like the recruiters are there, they're speaking to OHO, we're working on it together. And in speaking with them the other day, they were like, that's been one of the coolest things about this year. I never really knew how that worked. You know, it was always like we were given the lead, but we didn't know how it worked. And that's actually been really fun.
Awesome. Okay, I think our last question now is from Joyce. How will you use what you learned to inform how you approach the top of the funnel in terms of awareness and interest?
That's a great question. I feel like I'm at the bottom of the funnel right now, so I can't think of the top of the funnel. No, that's a great question, because we have to start. We're still at the bottom of the funnel, literally for spring, and our tactics are very bottom of the funnel as well. However, we have to start thinking about fall. What we really need to do at Miami Herbert is also just think about more of a domestic market and international other than Asia Pacific. So I have to figure out what that is, the top of the funnel for particularly outside of other international. I didn't answer that question really well because I feel like I'm not there yet. I feel like I'm in the weeds, but if I get the answer, Joyce, I will let you know, because we are neighbors.
I think I was going to say, I'm guessing Palm Beach Date is right down there by you.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina. We really appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge and experience today. This is fantastic.